Welcome to AHRC TV's weekly roundup. In this week's programme, Sri Lankan parliamentary election results bode well for democracy. 30th anniversary of Narmada Valley movement as Modi threatens rising water levels. Police violence continues in Nepal. Welcome to AHRC TV's weekly roundup. I'm Josephina Bergston. The programme begins in Sri Lanka, where the most peaceful parliamentary elections since independence have just concluded. The results have rebuffed attempts by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to return to power as Prime Minister. Rajapaksa was accused of ever-worsening corruption, nepotism and authoritarian tactics during his 9 years as president. His former health minister, Maithripala Sirisena, had ousted him in the January presidential elections. In the parliamentary elections held on Monday, the ruling United National Party, or UNP, doubled its seats in parliament. Not quite enough for an outright majority, but a convincing victory nonetheless. Current Prime Minister and UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe is expected to continue as Prime Minister. United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon and other world leaders have congratulated the people of Sri Lanka for their peaceful elections. The Asian Human Rights Commission has also welcomed the new government and expressed hope for quick progress in restoring the rule of law. For more on this, we hear from AHRC's Basil Fernando, Janasansadaya's Chitral Perera and journalist Philip Shanta.
Yes, it is a very successful election. I don't think that we even can compare this election to the past election because we experienced a free and fair election this time. Actually no violence and no violations. People actually strictly adhere to the rules and regulations. They are all happy. I think most of the people, including me, are not convinced with the results. The only thing that we can say now, ordinary people can come forward without any fear to fight for their rights. I think that is the situation. We have to wait and see how this new government performs. You know, even before the election and the election day and even now, most of the people are very silent. They are not come forward with any comments or any criticism. I think they are all waiting to see what is happening in the next few days. Yes, to some extent, the result actually defeated the Rajapaksa regime. So all must actively participate to bring the country back to the normal. That is to democratic for the democracy, specifically to establish the rule of law in the country.
This is the most free and fair election ever held in Sri Lanka. State mechanism fully dedicated to the credibility of the election. In the whole election context, law and order were maintained successfully, although a number of incidents were reported. I think this is a new culture for Sri Lankan politics. None party can secure the majority of the parliament. In one hand, it is good situation. They have to respect the people's opinion. They cannot conduct things arbitrarily in an unstable government. I suppose that political situation is not bad. The Maithripala Sirisena, as the common candidate, promised to form a national government after the general election. United National Party too agreed. Otherwise, this is the right time to form the national government to achieve the nation's aspirations. In my opinion, the parliament is the mirror of the society. People select their representatives as they wish. There are no right members in the parliament unless there are right people in the society. Being defeated Mr. Rajapaksa's political culture is the first step to the democracy and good governance in Sri Lanka. But the society cannot depend on any personal images. Therefore, I suppose that a new system should be installed for the democratic culture.
It is now the time for government to act on certain areas quickly. For example, in January election and August elections, both one of the major issues was curbing corruption, and it is very essential that first of all the commissioners who have been obstructing the work of the Bribery and Corruption Commission should be sacked. they should be removed, and through the proper process, a new commissioner should be elected. Secondly, there are not enough investigators in the commission, and there were even suggestion for recruiting 50 people, which were obstructed by the commissioners, and now at least that should be done immediately, so that all the investigations which are pending could be carried out shortly, and actions can be taken immediately. Also, this commission needs resources in order that it can become a viable commission like those in the developed countries, like for example what you get in Hong Kong, the ICAC. So that is a one major problem. Secondly, there are many cases of human rights violations that need to expedite investigations and action. That is the case of Pradeep Ekanaliyagoda, the case of the Sunday Leader editor Lasantha Wickramatunge, the number of journalists who are very seriously injured, physically injured by the last regime, and the many other forms of extrajudicial killings which were prevented from being properly investigated. For example, the case of Wasim Tajuddin, which was politically suppressed. So that area of activating the law enforcement to be fairly and quickly to act. The third area that require very important intervention is investment for the police, so that it could be a modern policing system. On the one hand, the police have shown some determination for defending rule of law, but in the last election, the way they supported the free and fair election. But at the same time, there are many defects in the system where they used torture in the past, mainly because the training and the facilities for a modern forensic based system is not there. Now that is should also be a priority. The most important area is the changes in the judicial area. From 1978 on, there had been a severe onslaught against the judiciary, and that has had a lot of impact. A lot of people are not there properly who can perform their functions. There is allegations of corruption, and there is allegations of politically being aligned to the former regime and the like. One way to deal with that is to appoint a high level commission for to act also with the participation of a number of Supreme Court judges on how the Supreme Court and the other court should be improved, and for this the help of foreign experts may be needed. But what is most important is to provide an opportunity for people to air their grievances against the system and take some remedial measures within a short period. Now, all these require, first of all, the government to declare its intention that the rule of law will remain their major concern, whatever other matters may also be important. This is a very clear statement is required from the Prime Minister, and President has spoken already about what he called Yahapalaniya, that is a good governance, but he should spell out that good government without rule of law is not possible. If this area can be the beginning, there's a long period ahead for big changes, because from 1978 to 2014 is an extremely negative period in Sri Lanka for democracy, for the welfare of the people as well as for protection of individual rights. So, we hope that people will see now itself a beginning, not that waiting for this or that. There is no reason to begin with what is possible. The people will support. Government will have complete support for every action taken to curb corruption and to reinforce the rule of law.
Next to India, where the fight against the disastrous Narmada Valley Dams project enters its 30th year. Right Livelihood Award laureate Medha Patkar and the Save the Narmada People's Movement spearheaded the struggle against the Sardar Sarovar mega dam. 40 of Medha Patkar's fellow laureates of the Right Livelihood Award, also known as the Alternative Nobel Prize, have appealed to the Government of India and to the United Nations in support of the people displaced by the dam projects in the Narmada Valley. The support from laureates across the world comes at a time when Patkar and her colleagues at the Save the Narmada People's Movement have just completed a 6-day march along the banks of the Narmada River and commenced protest against the decision of the Indian government to raise the water level of the Sardar Sarovar Dam. The protest is set to continue until the Indian government reverses its decision to raise the level of the dam. The government's decision will lead to the displacement of thousands of families, without these families being given just rehabilitation and resettlement. The dam has already displaced tens of thousands of people, many of whom are still waiting for compensation and relocation. The whole project has been plagued by corruption and ecological destruction. For more on this, AHRC TV catches up with Medha Patkar in the river valley.
The 6 days march in the villages is what we started this Jeevan Adhikar Satyagraha with, and then thousands of people gathering with one former MP Bhakticharan Das fighting the Niyamgiri battle, Dr. Sunilam and others from the various movements came here to strengthen the struggle, and then we started this Satyagraha. This will go on indefinitely, as I said, till we face the waters or till this monsoon is over and the valley is saved. The World Bank had already withdrawn, but what about the United Nations? Their various wings, the International Labour Organization, the WHO, and their various covenants and conventions that are being violated should be the basis for intervention at the international level into this struggle to really come out with a win-win situation at this moment, which can only happen if the dam work is stopped as and where it has reached and is not taken beyond, and the lakhs of, that is hundreds and thousands of people, are allowed to survive. Only those who have got the alternative livelihood can be considered as rehabilitated, while the rest should be assured their life with their own resources and their right to life.
Police violence has escalated in Nepal in recent weeks, as captured in past episodes of the Roundup. This week, further incidents of police excesses have been recorded. The violence has been escalating following the proposed demarcation of Nepal into 6 states. Many ethnic and other groups have taken to the streets against the proposed demarcation. Due to constant bandas or strikes, people's lives and livelihoods have been thrown into chaos. People who have taken to the streets to get assurances that the state will reconsider the demarcation and ensure their rights are guaranteed under the new constitution have had violent confrontations with the police in many places around Nepal. The AHRC reported last week that 3 people were killed in Surkhet district when the police opened fire. This week, on August 18, 2 persons, including Rajiv Raut, have been killed by the police in Saptari district. 4 others are in hospital with serious injuries. The AHRC has received information that a 14-year-old child who went to see the protest was shot in Kapulbastu district. And there are further reports of the police shooting bystanders. In districts like Nawalparasi and Rupandeli, police have charged at children and senior citizens with batons. It has further been reported that some protesters have used children in demonstrations, for instance in Rolpa and Kapilvastu district. The AHRC has raised concern and pointed out that it is an offence to put children in harm's way in this fashion. Despite the increase of dissenting voices taking to the streets in protest, crushing these protesters violently with batons, bullets and tear gas is unacceptable. The government of Nepal bears responsibility for these deaths caused by excessive police violence and for not dealing with these protesters in legal ways. On the other hand, protesting groups and political parties must ensure peaceful and non-violent demonstrations as befit behavior of citizens in a democracy. That is all for this weekly roundup. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.